Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather around for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Yinz Goin podcast. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh, to the sheer face of Half Dome, to the furthest corners of the globe, Matt will be your compass, your confidant, your companion as we explore the wonders of travel. So sit back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust whoosh over Yinz as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Matt by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shot for your guide through the highways and byways of travel. Your planning partner, the man with the map, Matt Schraeder. Hi, Yinz doing? Welcome to the Yinz Goin podcast. I'm Matt. I'm your host. Joining me again today is my dad, Garry. We won't be talking about any fishing trips this time. Instead, we're going to talk about the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, which is conveniently held in Sturgis, North Dakota. And also conveniently and timely, the 86th edition starts today and runs through August 16th. So, for anyone who forgot that it was happening now, you still have time to get there. And my dad's been there twice, 2012 and 2014.
Good
So,
morning.
yeah, good to
And
have you with us.
yeah, it's been a while since I've been there. Still trying to get enough old guys together to try to make another trip, but we'll see if that happens. Good news about going to Sturgis is there's a lot to see and do. And the key is, and I'll give it again later as my one of my travel tips, is to beat the crowds, get there early, leave early. Take it away.
Always leave early. I listened to another guy on a podcast, and that's his motto, but it mainly applies to sporting events. You're gonna beat the crowd, beat the traffic whenever you leave.
That's it.
And we don't have to be old guys. We can get some young guys going. We have enough nieces and nephews, and they don't
Right.
ride motorcycles, but they still might be interested. It's a
Yes.
cultural trip,
Right. It's a good area to visit.
and we'll hit on that later on as a bunch of the different places you can go to that are not too far away from Sturgis. So some of the
Exactly.
history about the motorcycle rally is it was first held on August 14th, 1938, which in our family, that's an important date, is my nephew's birthday and what was my grandpa's birthday, my mom's dad. So it was organized by the Indian motorcycle riders from the Jack Pine Gypsies Motorcycle Club. Clarence Pappy, I guess Hole, Joel. I don't know, kind of like Joel, Noel, Hoel. I'm not sure. So this guy bought the Indian Motor Company or Motorcycle Company in 1936, which is located in Sturgis. And by the way, anyone who's not familiar, Sturgis is it's in western South Dakota, like the western central. So north south, it's centrally located, but it's very far west near the border.
And
Where it
not
meets.
far from Rapid City, right?
Yeah, it's the border with Wyoming's very close, and then if you go a little bit north, you can get to Montana. So it's uh, tri-state area type thing.
Right.
But Pappy also organized the Jack Pine Gypsies, and then they started the motorcycle rally just a few years later. It was mainly held so that they could do stunts and have races. And a little history about the Indian motorcycles is that it was founded in 1901. It was the largest manufacturer of motorcycles in the 1910s. So early motor vehicles, the Ford Model T was just coming online, a few years before that. Motorcycles, things along those lines. That it was one of the biggest ones. And if you watch, it's one of the Batman movies that it might be the one that has Chris O'Donnell as the Robin. That Batman offers has a couple of these actual Indian motorcycles. One is needs a lot of repair, and he offers it to Chris O'Donnell if he can fix it up.
Right.
That's a
Product
heck of it.
placement.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a heck of a prize because those things are very expensive now because, they're over 100 years old.
right?
Well, potentially. So some of the most popular models were the Scout, which was built from 1920 to 1946, and then the Chief from 1922 to 1953. Now, Indian Motorcycles declared bankruptcy in 1953. The name was bought by Polaris in 2011, and then that was sold to Carewood LP earlier this year. So the Jack Pine Gypsies, they still own and operate the tracks, the hill climb, and the field areas where the rally is held. And the first rally was called the Black Hills Motor Classic.
Right.
So in the Black Hills of South
So,
Dakota,
right.
it's the Lakota name. Was it Pahasapa? Phasapa?
Right.
And it was named that the hills looked black from a distance due to the thick, dark green vegetation.
And
So
some of
there's
the
your
rock, excuse me, and some of the rock formations on there have a kind of a dark stain to them as well.
yeah, and the is that granite there? Because I know that not too far away is Mount Rushmore, and that's granite.
Right. Looks like it. Looks
And we
similar to some of the rock in Yosemite.
Yeah, and that's all granite out there too. And that's one thing you'll notice in Yosemite and other places that have big granite formations is that as the rock weathers and gets old, it does take on a darker color, from moss and whatever else that's going to grow on it. And whenever there's a rock fall, you can tell where it is, the quote unquote the scar of the rock fall because it's a lighter color. So, and if the hills are more they don't have quite the sheer face like Yosemite does. They get the rock falls there because it's unstable and very, vertical walls. But if it's more of a gradual thing, you're not going to get the rock fall. So it does have the chance to age a bit more and get more of a darker coloring. Now, when you go to Sturgis, the Harley Davidsons are going to be the most dominant motorcycles there. There's a bunch of other kinds, so you'll see people driving everything, but Harleys are a big thing.
Yes. And the interesting thing about Harley dominance over Indian, just saw a series on TV about the evolution of Harley Davidson. And it was during World War II when Harley Davidson won out over Indian in terms of providing the military with motorcycles. They were pretty even in World War One. I think that's when they were first deployed. But in World War II, Harley won out with the bigger contract. And after the war, the soldiers that came back were Harley riders and looked for the Harley brand over the Indian brand.
And that leads into why the Indian motorcycle brand went bankrupt in 1953. So less than 10 years after World War II ended.
Right,
And speaking of World War II, that the Sturgis Rally was not held from 1942 to 1945 because of World War II and the quote unquote inability to obtain high class talent to uh, come to the rally and do the races and all
right.
the other stuff that they were doing there. So if you're counting from 1938 being the first one and this only being 86, that's the reason why it doesn't quite add up. Now, it was originally 3 days in length, and the first day was a gypsy tour. There was like a guided tour through the Black Hills that was led by the Jack Pine Gypsies. And then days 2 and 3 were motorcycle and automobile races. And then there were also, as time went on, things expanded. They had parades, dances, animal shows that were in downtown Sturgis. In 1961, they put in the hill climb and motocross races. And those motocross races are a little bit crazy. That going over those jumps and around those turns and
Right,
everything.
right,
There's a place near Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. So this is maybe 30 minutes from Morgantown, maybe like 15 miles from the Pennsylvania West Virginia border in western Pennsylvania if you're on I-79. That if you're driving along and you look off to the east, you can see in the distance there's a motocross track cut into the hills. That there used to be one a lot closer. That's a pretty steep hill right by the highway. That one of the local guys, I guess, cut it and would ride on there. I saw him ride it a couple times, but now
Right.
they moved it. It's a much bigger track now, a little bit farther off. It's a couple miles, but you can still see it on the hill. It's pretty prominent, especially during the summer whenever the grass is in and the this is kind of like farmland area. So whatever crops you can see it distinctly cut into there. But the rally expanded to 7 days long, and it was the first full week in August. And then starting in 2016, it expanded to 10 days, and it now starts on the first Friday of August, wraps the whole week, and then goes through the following Sunday. Now, in the 1970s and 80s, a lot of people camped in City Park, but believe it or not, with a lot of drinking and motorcycle guys around. Not don't want to besmirch motorcycle guys because a lot of them are great guys like my dad, but some of them have a bad reputation, and this came to fruition here that there was bad behavior that led to the end of camping there, and there were no downtown street vendors anymore. And now Main Street is only open to motorcycles though during the rally, so no cars allowed.
Right. And
And
they do a good job of managing traffic by turning a lot of the streets into one way, and you know, only right hand turns and very few cross traffic turns, so they eliminate the number of collisions. I'll tell you more
yeah,
about that from talking to the police out there.
yeah, I've well, several places that I've lived, both here in Morgantown and particularly in Erie, Pennsylvania. They have a lot of that one-way traffic stuff that it can be a little bit frustrating. You have to go like a block just to the right, but it's a one-way street, and then there's another one-way street, so you have to loop around like 3 blocks just to get to where you need to go. So yeah, make sure you know where things are and where you have to be, and allow plenty of time if you have to cross over a few streets.
Right.
Now, with the attendance, that it peaked at 739,000 in 2015. And that was, of course, for the 75th Sturgis Rally. So you can see why a lot of people were coming. They're big round numbers people like to show up for. But more recently, it's been around 600 plus thousand has been the attendance, although there's different attendance figures. There's the official thing that Sturgis announces, and then there's the Department of Transportation that kind of estimates how many people were there. So we're going off the official Sturgis attendance. Now, the 2 years that my dad was there, 2012, 2014, it was about the same. The 2012 was 445,700. 2014, a little bit lower, 442,200. And so you got that right before the explosion, whenever a lot of people started coming.
Right. It
And
was
now,
still pretty crowded though, even even then.
oh yeah,
Amazing.
400, like almost 450,000 people in Sturgis. That it's usually not that crowded.
No, I forget it's like what 20,000 or how many thousand people live there. There's hardly anyone lives there. Small town.
Yeah. And it says something, it has a main street. So it, anytime that just has Main Street, it's not too big.
Right. And Main Street is parking on each of the curbside and then parking in the middle of the street, 2 lanes usually. And then they have a tower that's probably, I don't know, 30 feet high that you walk up and you can take a picture of Main Street with all the motorcycles up and down either side. Of course, there's a fee to go up and take a picture with your own camera. But anyways,
Good.
there's someone trying to make money everywhere and anywhere there.
Hooray, capitalism.
That's it.
And actually, the population of Sturgis is lower than that. That it's only about 7,000 to 7,400.
Right. It's a small
So it's
town.
a yeah, a real small town. Kind of reminds me of West Virginia that the in Morgantown, without students, I think it's around 30,000 people, but the football stadium holds like 55 or 60,000. And so
Right.
on game days, the Milan Pushkar Stadium in Morgantown is the largest city in West Virginia.
There you go.
I think even Charleston's, the capital, isn't even as big as that. Let's see, population of Charleston, West Virginia. Yeah, it's only like 46,000.
Right.
And yeah, Morgantown's about 30. And then if you add students, there's another about 20 to 25,000. So during the school year, it's amazing how quiet it is in the summer here.
There you go. Probably the same at Sturgis.
Yeah. Go in the off season. It's wonderful there. So my dad has shown me a lot of pictures of just bike after bike after bike all lined up along Main Street there too. And that's pretty impressive that um, it's the main parking thing. They like people, especially who want to show off their bikes, are going to come there and park it. And there have
Yeah.
been some. Go
You
ahead.
think you have a one of a kind, nice motorcycle until you go to some of these rallies and see, not even in the bike shows, some of the beautiful motorcycles that people are riding, and expensive.
Oh yeah, the money that people put into these to customize them, it's just insane. That
And
I
there's
remember. Go ahead.
and there's plenty of vendors there selling everything from security equipment to you know all of the chrome attachments you can get. And there's even people there that do pinstriping and painting on your motorcycle of murals, initials, anything you want.
Whenever I was in college in Erie, there was a guy who lived down the street that he had a little bit, a sportier looking car type thing. It might have been a Trans Am that he spent months doing this huge, like on the entire hood, this big drawing or painting, whatever you want to call it, of this eagle. And,
Right.
he did all this stuff. And he was like just about finished with it. And he got in a wreck
Uh,
and buckled the hood. I was like, oh, I saw it sitting there one day with the hood bent. I was like, oh man,
that's
all
it.
that time. That's when you just take the hood and you hang it in your house. You try to straighten out as much as you can. You just like hang it on your wall inside your house.
Yeah, we met a guy that put some had some pinstriping done and initials done on my motorcycle, and had I think I had King 2 put on it. It's a Road King. So I had the first one I had on it. My original was King and I had on it, and then he had put on it. I think I had King. I got King 2 on it, and my buddy Jack had some other stuff done, and we were talking to him. The money he was going to make from Sturgis, he was heading back to. I think he lived in Colorado. He was picking up a vintage Airstream uh, RV, trailer
Hmm.
to restore, and he was going to buy that, which I forget what the price was. It was pretty expensive, but he was going to restore that vintage Airstream with the money that he made from uh, painting bikes, tattooing bikes at Sturgis. So he had to be making a pretty good sum of money, and it's all cash too, right?
Of course, what Uncle Sam doesn't know doesn't hurt you.
That's it.
And I remember some of the pictures you sent of some of the bikes that were detailed. There was one that it was a really pretty it wasn't quite a navy blue. It was like a in between like a royal blue and a navy blue bike, and it had all these like Harley Davidson, the like the logo Harley Davidson with the
Right.
words written out this all over it.
Yeah, there's anything and everything you can imagine.
And before we go any further, do you want to give the details about your motorcycles? You talked about the Road King.
Yes, I got a 2013 Road King. I can't believe it's that old already, but and I've got a, 67 Electroglide that I've had for quite a while. That's an antique. And I not long ago sold my 1984 Sportster to a friend of mine who used to live in Pittsburgh, lives in Florida. It's retired in Florida now. So that was a, unique Sportster. It was a 1000 cc, which they only made for a few years. And if you traded the motorcycle in to do an upgrade to a bigger bike, they gave you your full $2,900 back that you paid for it in 1984 or whenever you would trade it in. So I think, they were looking to expand in the late 80s when they bought back the company. So that was pretty interesting.
I didn't realize that bike was that old.
Which one?
The Sportster, it was 84.
Yeah. Yeah.
I rode,
XLX.
yeah, I rode that just a few times whenever I was in college trying to get my motorcycle license and quickly went against that. The Harleys look awesome. They're a bit too heavy, even the smaller Sportster. Although then I was like, 18, 19 years old, so it might be different now. And I also had an unfortunate incident that I learned an important lesson that you always wear long pants while riding a motorcycle.
That's it.
Did my
Earned your
leg
leg.
touch? Yeah, burned my calf on the tailpipe. So yeah, always wear your pants when you're riding. Although we grew up, we had dirt bikes. I like those a little bit better. They're a bit lighter.
Right.
Although we learned on a little, 50 cc,
Right. Honda.
was it the Honda? And
Right.
then do you still have the bigger one? Was that 250? Is it a
No,
Yamaha?
Yamaha. I still have that 250, 1972. It's sitting in the shed. You can have it when I croak. You can restore it.
Get it made street legal. That'd be something I wouldn't mind riding because I have ridden that one before, and that's a lot lighter, and it's I think a little bit more fun for me to ride.
Right.
And whenever we go to Indonesia, that's a big thing of everyone has very few people have cars, but everyone has a motorcycle.
That's it.
So you ride those around, and they're a little bit daring too. That they'll whenever you come to a traffic light, there's like a foot and a half, seems like a foot and a half space between you and the car next to you, and then you see this line of little motorbikes whizzing between you and that other car. It's like watch out for your mirrors. But I've seen some crazy stuff on motorcycles over there. I once saw a family of six on one motorcycle.
There
They
you
were
go.
smaller kids, but they all
The
crammed
more,
on this thing.
the more, the merrier.
And of course, the driver will often have a helmet on, but a lot of these kids don't. And my wife recently showed me a picture. There's this guy working at a roadside stand that he has this, 2x6 piece of wood that's, maybe 8, 9 feet long, and he has all these bowls of food on it, and he's carrying it on his, with one hand, like on his shoulder, and then he walks over to a motorcycle, gets on. He's using one hand to turn the key and throttle up, and he drives away carrying this
There
thing
you go.
on.
Serving tray.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. Of course, the guy has no shoes on too, so
That's great.
that's the. I told her it's the most Indonesian thing I ever saw. I've also seen motorcycles with like 5 foot high 4 foot wide stack of boxes tied to the back of their motorcycle. It's like I don't even know how you balance that thing.
Yeah.
So, but in America, we have more laws to govern things like that. But anyway, getting back to Sturgis, there's a ton of events, and we're recording this a bit early, so there's not a whole lot posted yet. But there are concerts every night, and actually some in the morning. that some of the big places is a place that you're going to see them as a place called Buffalo Chip. So be careful eating there, right? If you know what buffalo
Well,
chips are.
yeah, that's a wild and crazy campground. That's probably not family friendly.
Yeah, definitely. And some of the acts that are playing there are not what I think too many kids would want to listen to. There's the Full Throttle Saloon, and then there's the Stoneville Saloon, and that's over in Alzada or Alzada, Montana. So it's across the border there. So this gets spread out a little bit.
Right.
And now some of the headlines who have been announced are David Lee Roth, Megadeth, Sammy Hagar and Friends, Leonard Skinnard, Journey, Lainey Wilson, Rob Zombie, and then Collective Soul. So you get quite a range of music genres in there.
Yeah, I think I saw some of the whatever was left of Badfinger at the Full Throttle. In addition to, they have a lot of other bands playing. I don't. Is the Full Throttle? I don't even know if that's still open. I thought they had a fire or something there. Maybe they rebuilt, but they had at least three, four different stages with bands playing there, other than the main stage, which is basically inside a big field behind the bar. Whatever. I mean, the bar's a conglomeration of different buildings, and
Yeah, and
they even had free tattoos there. I was like, oh, okay. They were giving full throttle saloon tattoos. I said, no thanks.
now if it's a free tattoo of your choosing, that's not a bad deal. But if it's only for the full throttle one, I don't know if I like it quite that much.
That's it.
Yeah, and they that is announced for this year at Full Throttle. So whether or not the bar
They must
itself
have,
is open, it's at least at the field.
well, they might have, yeah, well, they might have rebuilt some of whatever, wherever the fire was.
So and I think you mentioned seeing Kid Rock there the one time too.
That was in Milwaukee.
That was Milwaukee one for
Right.
the Harley
100,
Rally.
right. The different 100-year anniversaries.
And then my dad mentioned this before. There's bike shows, so you can see all kinds of
Right.
creative designs and paint jobs and modifications and upgrades and prototypes and whatever else.
And Harley usually has a big display of their newest models and demo rides that you can do there as well. Along
Speaking of
with,
rock, go ahead.
along with other bike models as well.
No, yeah, all the motorcycle vendors are going to have somebody there. That's
Right.
prime real estate for selling and kind of like at the grocery store right by the checkout you have the impulse buys. Here's you're going to this big rally, you got all the stuff. Hey, look at this, you want to buy one right now? And I'm sure some people spent more money than they planned hit some of those things, especially if they're have a little bit of liquid courage and adult beverages in them. Sure, that looks great, I'll take it. Be tough explaining that whenever you get home though. You bought how many motorcycles while you were there?
That's it.
And now my dad mentioned rides. I don't have the full list of rides that are going to be this year, but from last year, 2025, there was the Rusty Wallace NASCAR charity ride. There were the Biker Bells ride, so female riders going for that, and then Heroes Honor ride. So with that charity ride, there are some charity events too. So it's not just all
Right.
revelry and partying and everything else. There is a nice aspect to it that they can raise money for charity. Then there's different races we mentioned before, like the hill climb stuff and the motocross. And uh, did you watch any of those races when whenever you were there?
On the first trip we did, we went to some of the flat track racing one of those, and one of the hill climb sessions. Second trip we did not. It's again, it's pretty crowded and involved, and you got to get your tickets in advance to make sure that you get in while they still have there's still capacity.
Yeah,
But
and
it's worth,
I've
if you do it once, it's it's worth seeing them.
yeah, I've seen so at the Monongalia County Fair, so here in West Virginia, they've had some motorcycle events at the area too. We never saw them up close, mainly because we were leaving whenever they were getting started, or we were busy with the rides and doing other stuff. And also they can be kind of loud. So especially if anyone's gone to a NASCAR race, that you need the ear protection too.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're even if with the ear protection, you're standing there talking to the person, you're screaming at the top of your lungs. What'd you say?
It's it.
He's going fast. I know. So, um, but even watching some of these things on TV, those hill climbs are kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, the other one, and they didn't have it at Sturgis, but the last time I went 2 years ago up to Milwaukee for the 120th anniversary of Harley. They had the Red Bull riders. Uh,
Hmm.
if you ever see those stunt guys, they're pretty amazing. Where they basically are doing all sorts of jumps, and while that they're flipping the bikes. That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that leads into the different stunts that you'll see that on the X Games that were on
Right,
ESPN that they had like the big air competitions. I remember watching
right.
that when I was younger.
Yep, same thing.
Yeah, you go off and oh, you know, there's not too much on in the middle of the summer, and so you're watching that, and I got to learn like all the tricks and some of the big names back in the late '90s, early 2000s that they'll do go off this big jump and then they'll bring their legs off and they'll like grab the back of the bike and be like in a Superman position, then pull
Right,
themselves back up and
right. That's the Superman.
yep, doing different flips and kicking your feet off and oh man, it looks really cool. I just imagine like the first person like, you know what, I bet I can do this on a motorcycle and even just trying that. Biggest problem is if you mess up, the wipeout's gonna hurt. So important thing, kids, don't try this at home. And then there's parades, and it's not all just motorcycle parades. That there are. Last year they had the Budweiser Clydesdales.
Right.
Those are impressive animals. That I don't know if it was the exact Budweiser ones that I've seen at different locations, but the Clydesdales, they're
Right.
big and they're gorgeous animals seeing in real life.
Yeah, definitely are huge.
Then there's the food. There are all kinds of food vendors.
Yeah, the challenge is definitely you can eat and find a lot of different street vendor kind of food. Is getting into a location that is one indoors and two air conditioned because it can get warm. So another tip: whenever you arrive, put your name in somewhere, get a time, and then do a little more sightseeing and walking around and get back to when it's kind of closer to your time for check-in, kind of like Disney, right?
Yeah, though they don't have like the mobile order. You need to start the Sturgis Fast Pass for food.
And that's it.
Come back at your appointed time, get in the virtual queue. And I imagine they have all kinds of the carnival-esque Franken foods there of a deep
Right.
fried everything,
Absolutely.
deep fried butter on a stick.
It smells it smells good as you're walking around too, so they get you
Oh
going with
yeah.
the aroma.
Oh yeah, so much fried anything just smells good. All the fried dough stuff. And now, when you're actually going there, there are companies out there that you can ship your motorcycles to Sturgis while you take the more comfortable route of flying, or at least the shorter route of flying. Don't know if it's always more comfortable, but there's gonna be a lot of people who do ride their motorcycles and from distances, like my dad did on his trips.
Yeah,
So
there a lot of people will fly into Rapid City, but there'll be a lot of other people. Other people will fly into Bozeman and ride down from Bozeman, which isn't too bad of a trip. And they'll rent a motorcycle in Bozeman. People will do rentals for for whatever the for the trip as well.
now you're probably going to get more of a bland motorcycle on those rentals, so it's not going to be anything that's tricked out, or you're not going to be
Yeah,
showing off your favorite thing there, your custom
right.
jobs.
Basically, basic transportation, but it's the newest technology.
Yeah. And you have to worry about the maintenance later on because with some of these long trips, as I'll detail about my dad's one in 2014, is you need an oil change both before and after the trip, just because you're going to go so many miles and sometimes even during.
Yeah, yeah,
So my dad drove from Pittsburgh all the way to South Dakota. And so make sure you bring your rain gear for that too, because it's not going to be sunny and nice the whole time.
yeah. There's a story behind that.
And so on the way there, it was 1,445 miles over 4 days, stopping in Portage, Indiana, Onalaska, Wisconsin. Seems like Onalaska should be in Alaska, right?
That's it.
And then Mitchell, South Dakota, before finally ending up in Spearfish, South Dakota, which is not too far away from Sturgis.
Yeah, that we stayed in Spearfish on the 2014 one. The 2012 one, we stayed up at Bellafuse, way up north west of Bellafuse. I think that's in one of the John Wayne movies. They talk about driving a herd of cattle, Bellafuse. But anyways, the guy that was in charge of booking us there, he found a little known mom and pop hotel way up there. It wasn't too bad of a ride though. The bring your rain gear on the 2012 one of the guys didn't like putting his rain gear on and off. And my other buddy used to just put his on and leave it on, called it his riding suit, not his rain gear. So he got to tell him when it would rain. He said, "I like riding in the rain." He was saying, you like riding in the rain, don't you?" But it wasn't too bad. I think we had a little bit more colder weather in 2012 coming back. We came back on that trip through the UP, the Upper Peninsula. I think we took US 2 up through North Dakota and into the UP up to Duluth, and it was cold and rainy that day. And that's
And
why.
that's
Go
in
ahead.
August too.
Yeah, it was unbelievably cold. And that's why the second trip we decided to come back the southern route uh, instead of going up north. We came back the southern route, but also to change it up a little bit. The interesting thing about coming in from the route we took from Mitchell, you come to the Badlands first. So that's a good stop, and stop in the town of Wall for at Wall Drugs. It's a you see signs for this famous drugstore that has it's a giant tourist trap, but has everything that you want. And little town, I think it's the town of Wall, but it's not far from the Badlands.
You could start your little market there and you could call it Walmart. Although I think you
That's
have
it.
some lawsuits coming soon after that.
I think they
But
even do a play on words saying it's not Walmart, it's Wall Drugs or something. I can't remember. But anyway,
yeah, whenever you're there, it's not just, the Sturgis Rally. There's a lot of other things you can see around it that are a day trip away, or as my dad did on the second trip, he made that part of the second part of the trip of leaving early, so beat the rush out of there because traffic and highways jammed with motorcycles are not the most fun thing to have to deal with. Any traffic's not fun to deal with. So, but Deadwood is about 13 miles away. So, especially if you're a fan of the show, whatever that was on
Right.
HBO,
And
something like that.
the who died with aces and eights was that
Is that Billy the Kid or Wild
nah,
Bill Hickok?
yeah, I think that's who. And it's interesting. They've got two different bars there that claim to have the chair or wherever he was shot in. That was a we had an adventure there on the first trip. My one buddy, after we ate at one of the restaurants there, we got back to the room and he realized he didn't have his credit card. So he left his credit card at the when you signed for it, he didn't take it out of the little thing they bring your bill in, and we went out. So we had to make a emergency trip the next morning down to Deadwood to retrieve his credit card. But that's a nice little town to walk around.
Yeah, that
Spearfish
was.
Canyon is. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, with Deadwood, with it was Wild Bill Hickok with the aces and eights, and
Right,
the different places. It reminds me of like in Philadelphia, the original inventor of the Philly cheesesteak. Was
right.
it Pat's and Geno's are the two? And there was another. Oh, who was it? This was in. I saw it on like the CBS Sunday Morning or something. That there was the original originator of fettuccine Alfredo. That there was debate
Right,
over which
right.
one. That it was actually in the one restaurant. They invented it there, but then the guy who invented it left and went to started another
Restaurant.
restaurant. And
I
so,
saw that. So both families are claiming the original recipe.
hmm but go ahead. Spearfish Canyon. It's about 20 miles away from Sturgis.
Right. And I found the second time the most convenient place to stay, at least, is west of Sturgis right off of Interstate 90, I believe that is the town of Spearfish because there's uh, you can get a few restaurants, some fast food ones, and hotels there. It's not as crowded, and it's easy access to like the Spearfish Canyon run. It's basically a nice ride down through the south of Spearfish, uh, mountains on either side, a couple of waterfalls. That's always a good ride. You
Just
got
remember, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Then you've got Mount Rushmore, which is one of the big attractions.
Yeah,
And
and well, either Spearfish or Mount Rushmore, keep your eyes on the road or pull over on the side if you're going to admire the scenery.
well,
Don't
that's
don't
the other thing.
multitask.
Well, that's the other thing too is that more so when you get to the Custard State Park, where you'll see more wildlife. It's kind of like when you're at uh, Yellowstone or other places that have a lot of wildlife. There'll be a lineup of vehicles that'll pull off. But we'll talk about that. But Mount Rushmore was interesting, and I see you've got the Iron Mountain Road that and Needles Highway. They're both interesting rides with hairpin turns, etc. And Mount Rushmore, you got to spend at least a couple hours there to you know enjoy the view as well as catch up on some of the history that they have laid out there.
It's amazing how the mountains there with the granite eroded exactly in the form of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. I mean, it's just a
That's it.
miracle, right?
Well,
No,
they've got a building there that houses the prototype, whatever, I forget what scale it is. That originally I think they were going to be all the way down to waist,
yeah,
uh, with their suit coats on, etc.
yeah, and they ran out of funding. We'll talk about that in a sec, but only George Washington has a little bit of his the lapel of his shirt or coat that you can see, and the
Right,
rest are just down to the chin.
right,
But the Iron Mountain Road, it was built specifically to offer views of Mount Rushmore as you're coming in. And it's like it offers like it's perfectly laid out with like these framed views of like little tunnels of some of them are no more than like 10 feet long, just going through little
right,
um, granite patch or whatever it is with the trees. And you make this turn and then you see like Mount Rushmore right through this thing. It reminds me a lot of Tunnel View in Yosemite.
right. And the other thing that there can be traffic jams there. We were riding to Mount Rushmore, and one of those tunnels, and there was a lineup, of cars and motorcycles, and you're sitting on a hot motorcycle, and everybody's shutting down, and what's going on? Is there an accident, etc.? Here, there was a tour bus. These tunnels, some of them are single lane. There was a tour bus coming through the tunnel that has to go so slow because the tour buses are so big now that it barely fits through these friggin' tunnels. So it was a traffic jam. So then we get through, traffic starts moving, and then the police are there letting it go uh, one direction at a time to clear the traffic jam. With motorcycles, you can go both ways, but they were, letting vehicles, etc. And as we're pulling out of the other end of the tunnel, sitting on the side of the road, we see one of our buddies from Pittsburgh sitting there waiting to go the other direction. He's a Harley mechanic at the Harley shop. So we waved to him, was like, "Hey, I know him." He was so we talked to him after that. We never saw him after that in Sturgis. No, no, no problem. But that I thought that was pretty interesting.
Driving, 1,500 miles across the U.S. and you see someone who lives, you know, 5 miles away down the street.
Well, and it was, we all kind of waved and said to him, then as the next stop, maybe it was when we got to Mount Rushmore, we said, "Hey, did you see that? That was Dave." Yeah, he was sitting on the side of the road. Crazy.
And now with Mount Rushmore, and that reminds me of with the bus going through. Was that you telling me the story about the train tunnel that you have to share traffic with going through one of your other
Right.
trips? Was that in Alaska?
Yeah, with the train. If you don't, I forget where that was, to whatever town that was. But yes, you have, there's a train schedule. And if you don't get out at a certain time, you're stuck there overnight because the train has the right of way and they close the tunnel.
So yeah, watch out for the buses because they have the right of way through the thing.
Right.
Nothing else will fit. They outweigh you. Now, some of the history of Mount Rushmore is that with Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln, they were chosen to represent the foundation with Washington, the expansion with Jefferson and the Louisiana Purchase, development with Roosevelt, and then preservation with Lincoln, with the whole keeping the Union together after with the Civil War.
Right.
Initially, Jefferson was going to be on Washington's right, but the granite there was unsuitable to do the carving, so they had to dynamite out what they had started and then put Jefferson on the other side, so it's like kind of at an angle, sandwiched in there. And then the it was initially built starting on October 4th, 1927, going through October 31st, 1941. And of course, it ended because they kind of ran out of money. And architect Gutzon Borglum, he ended up dying in March of 1941, and then his son Lincoln took over. And amazingly enough, there were no fatalities during the building or sculpting of Mount Rushmore.
Right. And if you make it there and you see some of the old movie films of how these guys were basically sitting on a bosun's chair, which is a cable hanging down with a flat piece of wood on it like a tree swing, and holding these jackhammers as they're cutting the granite. Pretty amazing. They had some
Yeah,
scaffolding, but a lot of them were dangling off the mountain.
yeah, and they did like honeycombing. So like drill in and then they put dynamite in and blow it up and
Right.
clear things off. And now at the like visitor center and the observation decks, they do have a lot of Native American information there about the people who lived there before the land was taken by the U.S. government. Although
Right.
um, later it was ruled that they deserved compensation of $102 million, but they refused to take it, and they said, "No, we'll just take the land back." So that's a whole dispute that will stay out of. But they do have nice um, Native American interpretations, and I believe it's on the Ken Burns National Parks documentary that they discuss some of that, and they have one of the park rangers who is a Native American who's going into a whole lot more detail of some of the offerings of the different dances that they'll do and what that portrays and what it represents. Might just be on some of the special features, but I know it's on the DVDs that I've seen.
Yes, I remember that.
So if you want your culture, get a little more of the history and from somewhat underrepresented population, it's a great place to go. And now there is the Crazy Horse Memorial, which is 67 miles away, and near that, the Custer State Park, which is 75 miles away.
Crazy Horse Memorial is pretty interesting. The At least when I was there, the high point of the visit, you can take a bus tour that drives you from like the parking lot up to the sculpture that they were building. But it was, I guess, various times of the day they have a dynamite blast. It's kind of, you hear the siren go off, and off in the distance you look up onto the mountain, and you first see the explosion, and then you hear it. So you're not very close, but you see the puff of rock coming off.
Different type of fireworks.
That's it. Custard State Park was interesting. Both visits. The first one didn't see as many buffalo uh, on the ride. It's a nice ride, but we stopped for a break, and there were some wild donkeys or burros. And my buddy Jack always has candy and snacks in his saddlebag. So these donkeys were all around him, sniffing his uh, saddlebags. He finally pulls out a big bag of licorice, and they were following. He was walking around giving them people the licorice, and he was having a good old time with a parade of donkeys, and everybody was taking pictures of him dangling licorice, and they were all pretty docile, and they were just following him around the wherever we stopped, a little parking area off the side of the road for the donkey parade.
So they often talk about the carrot and the stick. No, no, it's got to be the licorice in the stick to get the donkeys to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, and the second time there was there had to be a couple of hundred buffalo that were off to the side of the road. They had to park rangers there because, believe it or not, the buffalo were beginning their mating season, and these people were running up to these, they're as big as your SUV, trying to take pictures of them. Not understanding, as the ranger was telling everybody, they're very territorial. They don't like anybody coming around them because they're protecting their herd. But have some even good videos of those.
Yeah, remember they are wild animals. They might look big and
Absolutely.
cute and fluffy, but those horns on their head, and like my dad said, they're as big as an SUV. They outweigh you.
But there's yeah, that's a nice ride through the Black Hills.
Yeah, and that's where in Custer State Park is where my dad mentioned the Needles Highway. It's 14 miles of great views and going through some of these narrow tunnels, including one called the Needles Eye.
Right.
And now with Custer State Park, that is where the Battle of Little Bighorn was. Custer's last stand. It was June 25th through 26th of 1876. And since the Crazy Horse Memorial was very close, it was Crazy Horse and Chief Gall who defeated Custer.
Right.
And they saw like a vision of Sitting Bull that kind of inspired them. They're going a little bit farther away. 84 miles from Sturgis is Devil's Tower National Monument. So if you are preparing for this, make sure you order mashed potatoes and make your sculpture out of it, like your Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That's pretty neat when you're driving up. You can see the tower uh, and get some. Uh, we pulled off to the side of the road and got some pictures, with our motorcycles and everybody, posing. Once you get close, it's, I guess, a couple or 3 mile walk. You can walk around the base of it uh, and maybe a couple of other trails to hike around there. But when we made that trip, which is kind of northwest, um, that's actually in Wyoming, I believe, right? Or Montana. Anyway,
Let me check.
but you're
Good.
heading northwest, so it's either Montana or no, it's in Wyoming because we drove from there just to say we went to Montana up to a old cowboy bar just across the line, and on the way from uh, Devil's Tower to that place, you could see it coming from the west, a line of thunderstorms, and we're racing to beat this thunderstorm because we were in the middle of nowhere. There's nowhere to hide. So we get to Montana, then we have to go back west on that highway to get to that little bar, and it started to hail. We just got into the parking lot, and that was on my other Road King. It broke the. We didn't get any dents in the tank, but the way my handlebars were set, it cracked my one mirror. And after we got in there, we got pictures, a handful of hailstones. There was a group from Canada. They were a riding club of Canadian paratroopers, and
Oh
they came
wow.
in. Yeah, they came in. They were riding in that hailstorm. They had welts on. I mean,
Oh geez.
yeah, it was really bad. So we got out of there after the storm went through, but I think we got a little wet riding back. Yeah, you
That's
got
when.
the bad. Go ahead.
Oh, that's when you got to find one of the overpasses in or an underpass and go there and
Yeah,
stay
but
out of
there
the.
was not. Yeah, there was
Yeah,
nothing. I mean, you're in.
yeah. It's all flat out there.
You're out in cattle country.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people on driving highways closer to here whenever it's raining. That I'll see a motorcycle pulled over, a guy getting his rain gear out.
Well, that was on the way back. I think we were in Nebraska or whatever. There was a tornado. We were all huddled under the underpass that went. It was probably east. We were heading east, and it went east of where we were. I mean, we didn't see it, but you could tell the sky was, ugly green. And the one guy had the radar on his phone and was showing, the purple color.
Yeah, that's one of the
Well,
safest places up under the bridge embankment.
it was the only place at that point in time.
Yeah.
The
Oh, bef-
Badlands, yeah,
oh,
we
before
saw.
we go on to there with
Yeah,
Devil's Tower, is that you mentioned about hiking around it? There are people who are mountain climbers who actually climb Devil's
right.
Tower too.
Kind of
So
like
in
El Cap,
yeah, like in between the little I guess flutes or whatever you want to call them there.
right?
That's crazy stuff. But go ahead, Badlands. It's about 110 miles from Sturgis.
Yeah, we did Badlands on the way in. which definitely earns its name because there is nothing, whatever you know, sandstone or rock formations that are there. It was warm. I don't know if it was just the fact that you're looking around and there's nothing around and it's desert kind of looking that made you feel hotter than what it was. But that took a short ride through there, and then we
It's
went
rock.
on. Go ahead.
I say it's rocks and dinosaur bones.
All right. Then we went on from after Sturgis on to Yellowstone. From there, went over to Cody.
And
But we
that's
also
a
took, go ahead.
oh Yellowstone. It's a longer ride, so it's like 350 miles to get there. So this is
Yeah.
not going to be a day trip. This is going to be an added excursion, either before or after you're going to Sturgis.
Yeah, that was our plan because we had the first time we went there, we were, I was saying we should just go to Yellowstone, But for the second trip, only two of us were up for, the extended ride from there. But that was a good trip. And one of the trips that we made was over to Sundance, Wyoming, to get an oil change, which was like 90 miles away or 100 miles away at, I think it's Custard Harley Davidson or something. That was, we kept seeing these billboard sign. It said the cheapest oil change in the West. And it was, I don't know, $99 or something. And they were advertising all around Sturgis, and even had people giving out coupons and things of that nature. So, like you said, I needed an oil change, uh, and I think Jack needed something done, or I needed something. Anyway, we said, "Well, we're going to Wyoming for an oil change," and took a ride through the flatlands on the interstate. I mean, you're doing 70 on the interstate. It didn't take long at all to get there. It's a nice little town. Had some lunch there. Guy fit us in. Gave us a break on price. He was a. We said, "You have any old guy discounts?" And we started talking. Where are you from? He was from Washington, PA. So he gave us a discount, anyways. Old guy discount from Pennsylvania. So that was fun trip.
Washington, PA is the home of the Pony League World Series.
That's it.
Not Little League, that's out in Williamsport, but Pony League is in Washington.
Yeah, so
So
those were some of the trips that are around there. It's definitely even if you're not interested in the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, the Black Hills have a lot of history, and there is a lot of Indian culture there as well that you can follow, and it's pretty easy to get around. I would imagine gets pretty crowded like anywhere else, any of the other national parks. But even with all the motorcycles, didn't notice that to be too much of a problem.
yeah, you figure most of it's concentrated in Sturgis, so you get not as many people going out to those other places, and even whenever they do, it's not all
Right.
you know,
There's all kind
however
of
100,000.
right, but there's a lot of that was the good news about getting there early. Go to Sturgis, and the we would come in from the west into Sturgis, and there's a big sign that everybody stops in front of that says Sturgis, South Dakota, and they pull your bike in front. You get a picture, etc. You're sitting there, but the road goes to the right, goes to the main street, and all the other where the buildings are. And the split there's a little smaller street that's to the left, and that takes you on a back road that goes down behind their civic center. I think it was the civic center, and there was a municipal parking lot there, so you could park for free and walk a couple of blocks up into Sturgis. So that became our go-to parking space to stay out of the crazy traffic, trying to find a place to park. Because you're basically riding through Sturgis, you know, one-way streets looking for. And if you've got four guys with motorcycles, all you're not going to find four parking spaces. Very seldom. It started to become a hassle. And even with two guys, we could, you'd still have to split up. But then once we started hitting that little municipal parking lot, um, and they had I think it was free, but they had a like bake sale or crafts and whatever. So we'd always buy something or a drink from them or water. Somebody was raising funds for the little chamber of commerce or whatever.
Keeping your karma shiny.
Yeah, and back to law and order. So we were talking to the policemen there, and the guys that we were talking to were from Denver.
Oh, wow.
Right. So they put out, uh, you know, requests for help to all the surrounding areas. Now those guys, they were bikers themselves. They were enthusiasts themselves. So they, you know, on their off hours would ride around and trip around. But the police, I forget what how the police force expands. They are usually traveling in groups of two and four. They're very, they're somewhat lenient, but they're also very strict in terms of. We saw the one guy pulled up a one-way street for only about, I don't know, 10, 20 feet because he saw a parking space. And that was, everybody's nuts trying to find a place to park. So he pulled in there and pulled in the parking space. As soon as he pulled in, two of the policemen came over and said, "Hey, you came up a one way. What are you doing?" And he started to get a little defensive. And they was like, "Hey, buddy, settle down." And then as soon as they had him stop there, two more policemen came. The other guy called in because this guy, and then the next wave came of two more guys with looked like a John Deere Gator with a little miniature paddy wagon with a little holding cell on the back. So within, I don't know, 5 minutes there were six police there and a holding cell. So the guy finally settled down, and they didn't give him a ticket or anything, but they just told him, "Hey, you're not supposed to go up one-way streets. We're doing it because of whatever." So he asked the guy, and he said, "We give a lot more tickets out, and try to, it's just a pain in the butt to try to get, people in jail." He said, "Unless they're, completely belligerent or, drunk driving, they don't tolerate any of that." So I thought it was pretty interesting of their view of law and order.
Yeah, and you figure Sturgis with 7,000 people, they're not going to have the police force to handle all this. So it makes sense that they're bringing people from outside. And
Oh
if
yeah,
you're a bike guy who works as a police officer somewhere else, hey, that's a great way to get to Sturgis.
yeah, and they'll work 12-hour shifts because they're just walking around or whatever, and they make a pretty good paycheck, for those 10 days, and they get them there, like I think he said it was 2 weeks because they get them there early and give them their assignments and go through all the protocols and who's covering what and building the schedules and all that. So they usually take a vacation for a week, or some of them even go the full 2 weeks and make a few extra bucks being a policeman in Sturgis.
And after the issues that they had in the 70s and 80s with people getting a little bit rowdy, they've learned their lesson, and I think they have a decent perspective of it that, all right, we're going to make sure people are doing safe stuff. We're not going to necessarily go after you for every little thing, mainly because you can't police all
Right,
that, but they're going to keep things in order, and any big issues will be stamped out pretty
right,
quickly.
right. And they, as they say, nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
They get there and before things get too out of hand. The other thing that was interesting is they were showing a video, and not far from there was a guy that was selling these big iron cable locks for your bike, and they were showing videos of how they steal bikes, and they had a pickup truck with a enclosed trailer, utility trailer on the back. The trailer pulled up, the back door of the trailer, guy come out of the pickup truck, opened the back door of the trailer. Three guys were back there with that guy. They put looked like axe handles inside the wheels of the bike. The four big guys lifted the bike up, put it in the trailer, locked the other guy slammed the door shut and went away. It was amazing. It was, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, not even that. They stole that motorcycle and it was gone. He said, and they were talking about the fact, you probably won't see the motorcycle. They'll just sell it for parts. But, that's uh, was a pretty eye opening situation.
Yeah, seriously. Now, on the way back, it was a 5 day trip of 1,770 miles because you're coming from Yellowstone, not from Sturgis, so a bit longer. Stopping
Yeah,
in Cody, Wyoming, Scotts Bluff, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, Peru, Illinois, and then Perrysburg, Ohio. You can't miss Perrysburg. It's the
that's
big
it.
metropolis of.
That's the last stop you can find. Basically, I try to lay out the runs each day to be uh, somewhere around 400 miles. If you're doing interstate, that's not too bad. But it's basically you get up, have breakfast, you ride for about 90 miles or so, or before you have to go to the bathroom for a stop, take a break, uh, ride, have lunch, take a break, ride, and then try to get in around uh, getting your rides to be 90 to 100 miles in each of those stops. So if you think about Pittsburgh to Erie, you're which is 100 some miles.
About
You're
180, I think, or no. Yeah, that's about a 2 hour drive. So
right. Yeah, so you drive.
120.
You basically are driving a little less than that. Four times during the day. The toughest part is the afternoon ride. You're usually. Oh, the other neat thing on the way from uh, Mitchell, I think it was from Mitchell, fields and fields of sunflowers growing, which I never knew you know, that they grew that many sunflowers or never saw that before, which was pretty wild and crazy.
Hey, your sunflower seeds got to come from somewhere.
That's it. And yeah, those were pretty good trips.
A lot of driving though. Whenever you're coming back and you're hitting Illinois, it's like we got another day and a half of driving, and I'm tired of sitting on a motorcycle.
Yeah, they were pretty flat, and it got windy on the way back. That was pretty. Like I told you, we had some weather when we had that thunderstorm, but there was a front that was moving through, and it was a crosswind. We were heading east. I guess it was coming out of the north or wherever the low pressure was. Probably coming out of the south if it was going counterclockwise. Not sure. Anyway, that was tedious. The only thing I would have done differently coming from Cody would have been to go to Jackson Hole and the Grand Tetons because we were just west of or east of it. As we came down towards what is it, Scotts Bluff, down that way.
Yeah,
So
whenever we had the episode where we talked about Yellowstone, it's not too far away. So if you're going to do Yellowstone, definitely throw in the Grand Tetons.
right, we did that on our fishing trip. We made that a day trip. No, we went down and stayed in Jackson Hole. That's right. We stayed at a hotel down in Jackson Hole. Anyway,
So do you want to give your travel tip?
Yeah, I think as I said earlier, if you're going to Sturgis, I would go early. So that first weekend before all the people arrive, there's less traffic in Sturgis, and most of the vendors and most of the things to see, with the exception of some of the big name concerts. If you're going there for that, but there's still a lot of and other entertainment, and there aren't as many people seeing all the sites like Mount Rushmore, etc. So I would go early and leave early. As far as going to you know the Black Hills, whatever direction you're coming from, uh, definitely Mount Rushmore, Devil's Tower, Custard State Park, Badlands, and a few of the other small towns are worth the visit. And I think I may have sent you that information on the one itinerary. They show about you can do if you only had one day,
Hmm.
that does a kind of a tour from Badlands to Mount Rushmore through Custard, and maybe even some of the Iron Mountain Road as well, that you could probably do in a day.
A lot of driving, but it's a nice little grand circle tour. You get the
Right,
big bang for your buck type thing.
right.
So, good tip. Mine is when you're driving, watch out for motorcycles. And on the other hand, when you're driving your motorcycle, be smart and be safe. That I've seen some motorcyclists who have not been basically they drive recklessly, speeding, weaving through traffic, things like that, and it gives motorcyclists a bad name. So please, you're representing all motorcyclists when you're out there. So please be careful with that.
Oh,
Both of which, go
go
ahead.
ahead. The other tip there is traveling from Sturgis to like spearfishing at night. Uh, Plenty of wildlife crossing the highway. It was, high beams. Everybody had their high beams out watching for, the deer that were crossing. So
Yeah,
definitely a lot of wildlife on the road. Go ahead.
yeah. Both motorcycles and cars, be careful. But if you're a
Yeah,
motorcycle, you take the brunt of it a bit more.
that's it.
So I once saw a motorcycle rider who lost control on the interstate, and it looked. My guess is it seemed like he blew a tire. That he started fishtailing. So I
Yeah.
assume that's what happened, and he wrecked while going about 80 miles an hour. Well, he slowed down a bit, but he passed me. He was going about 80. Then he started fishtailing a little bit ahead of me, like 100 yards ahead, and he slowed down a bit, but then lost control and went over the handlebars with that. And by the way, he was not wearing a helmet. So
Yep.
it wasn't
Not good.
pretty. What's that?
Not good.
Oh yeah. Um, so I was, first person there, called ambulance. His bike was up the road in the middle. He ended up like on a grassy area in the median. So he had a nice gash on his forehead. I don't know what happened with anything, eventually, but um, please be safe when you're doing that. So a lot of places don't have the motorcycle helmet laws anymore, but be
Yeah, I
careful
was
with.
in my helmet, whether I need it or not. I got it from the days of riding dirt bikes. Always had a helmet on. It had saved your head from branches and rocks flying
Yeah.
from the other guys. But I got a flat tire on the way out on the second trip in 2014 on the way to Onalaska. That was the lacrosse Harley Davidson. I was riding, and you talk about. I thought it was the grooved highway. The back of the bike started swerving back and forth a little bit on the interstate, and I started to slow down, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm getting a flat tire." And it was, my bike was brand new. The tires were brand new, and sure enough, I was. But the type of wheels that I have, the spoked wheels, they have a solid rubber bladder inside the rim that seals the spokes so the air don't come out, and it didn't go completely flat. It's kind of like similar to a ride flat tire. So I had my Harley Owners Club manual with me that shows all the states and all the motorcycles shops in the area, and the lacrosse one was not far away. Called them, they came and picked it up. Had the state police standing on the side monitoring, traffic so we wouldn't get run over. And they stayed open. Luckily, had the same tire that I needed, and we bought them pizza. They stayed open, changed the tire for us, and it was only probably three or maybe 5 miles from the hotel where we were staying. So lucked out on that. And it was talking to your mother when we bought the bike. I was wondering, should I get the coverage, extended coverage? And she said, yeah, you might as well get it because it was a 2013, unlucky 13. And the guy said, well, if you're going to get that, you might as well get the tire package, which also, was different than the overall mechanical coverage. So I got them both. So that cost me nothing for the tow, for the all the work and replacement. There you go.
Here's another tip for you. Yeah. Reminds me of the one time I was up in Erie. It was in the winter. It was,
Okay.
January, February, whatever. I got a flat tire and, you know, pulled into a gas station because, indicator came on and I couldn't get the tire off. The lug nuts were on too tight. So I had to call AAA, and this was on a Sunday afternoon. Had to go to only place open was a local Walmart, and they were about to close. And the guys kind of gave me a little hassle about, yeah, I don't want to stay open, whatever. So they eventually did, though.
Right.
Didn't get the best tires, but I got enough tires that got me home that night, which is important.
Yep. Never know.
So, for everyone else, if you have a destination or experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite place to visit or have a travel tip, feel free to contact me. I would love to hear your feedback and ideas. Here at the podcast, you can find us on Facebook and X at Where Yinz Goin. Yinz, Y-I-N-Z, Goin, G-O-I-N with the apostrophe, and then the question mark. Don't forget that. You can also email me at Matt, M-A-T-T, at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. All of this information is going to be in the episode description. So if you want to contact me to book a trip or have any questions, you know how to find me. Dad, it was great to have you on to talk about your trips to Sturgis.
You're
So,
welcome. And next trip that I'm planning is to go fishing in the Great Northwest, Columbia River and Deschutes River. But that
so the plan is for that for next summer. So we'll have you back then, maybe even sooner if we have some other stuff to talk to you about.
sounds good.
So for everyone else, please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend, let other people know if you like what you heard. So get the get this podcast to more ears. But please join us next time. We're heading out, Nat. We'll see you later.